Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me. Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. The India Alliance's decision to boycott 14 television anchors who've been identified by name has created a storm of controversy. Today, it's my intention to examine several aspects of this decision. And joining me for the discussion is a man that many people consider India's foremost journalist, indeed the doyen of our profession, the former editor-in-chief and publisher of The Hindu, N. Ram. Mr. Ram, I want to raise different aspects of the India Alliance's decision to boycott 14 television anchors who've been identified by name. But let me first start with what I would call a moral concern. Is it fitting in a democracy for politicians to boycott fellow citizens? Is there not something distasteful or even unethical about boycotting fellow human beings?
Karan, it's always a pleasure and an educational experience talking to you. This is more a conversation than an interview. I take that for granted because, so let me say that first. Yes, as a starting point, I would agree with that those in politics and public affairs should be accessible, not that all of them are. And the man right at the top is not really accessible in the way previous prime ministers are. But having said that, in principle, the starting point, I would agree with that. But it depends on the kind of journalists or anchors who want you on their show. I mean, you meaning a politician. And if some of them are bullies or conduct aggressive propaganda with a clear agenda and view, then I think the issue becomes a little different. Of course, the explanation, the announcement says that we don't want to be part of a hatefilled narrative. That's the basic idea. And those who are biased and those who are communal, we have targeted them. We have sort of shortlisted them for boycott. Now, I think bias is very common in journalism. I don't think you can discriminate against people on the basis of bias. But if you're talking about being aggressively communal or bullying, then I think it becomes a gray area. That's what I'd say.
Let me put a follow-up question to you. If a politician doesn't like an anchor and doesn't want to appear on his or her program because he considers the anchor a bully, because he believes the anchor sets the wrong agenda or the anchor is rude, surely the simple and sensible thing to do is to refuse the invitation. That would achieve the same outcome without incurring the controversy of a boycott. It seems to me that the India Alliance had a very easy option. We will not accept invitations of anchors we don't like, rather than go public and announce a boycott and attract controversy.
Yes, that's an interesting point. I must tell you that just before we have this conversation, I had I had several journalists here. It was to do with the Chennai Press Club, trying to revive it because it hasn't had elections for a long time. And there were about a dozen people, including well-known names in media in Tamil Nadu. So I took advantage of the meeting this is about something else, to poll the group. It included people like Nakiran Gopal, Bhagavan Singh, veteran journalists, as well as young journalists, Kavita Muralidharan, and so on. And without exception, I was surprised. They said that this was the right answer, but one of them said exactly what you said, that you're sort of making an announcement, you just make a decision not to accept invitations from those anchors. But as against it, the others said, and I think it was quite interesting, he spoke for about 10, 15 minutes on this, on the same issue. I told them that I would be on this conversation with you, so they were interested. They said this is to send a message. This is to send a message out there that these people are, in a sense, beyond the pale. So the argument was well met. The issue was was well discussed, I think. So I think it depends on who is beyond the pale, but the cleverer way of responding would have been to, unless you buy into this question of message, a political message that these people was that and so on, was just to do what just do what you said.
So can I interrupt and ask? I get the feeling from your answer you don't buy into this view that we are sending a message and it's worth doing. You prefer instead the subtlety of politely but repeatedly declining and achieving the same outcome.
Unless the message, yes, I agree with that. Unless the message proves to be a big thing, that it will. So I asked a follow-up question, in fact, to this group of my friends, colleagues, that would this hurt the image of the anchors, their professional position? And they all said yes. By boycotting these people, the loser would be the anchors and not the...
I'm not sure I agree with that, because I think these anchors are already disliked by those who don't like their alleged hate mongering. So as far as their critics are concerned, it won't have any great change in the way they are viewed. But in the case of their fans and their supporters, they might actually go up in their eyes, because now they'll be seen as martyrs, in quotations, or as people who are being targeted unfairly. So I think the chances of their popularity amongst their fan base increasing is greater than their collapse of image amongst their critics. Yes,
probably right in this. And yes, the straight answer to your question would be that a more subtle approach, okay, would have suited the alliance, the India alliance, better. They can still do that, because I'm sure that not everybody is on board with this, on this issue, because there's so many parties there. But but what I don't buy is the kind of attack that has come from some saying this is a sort of violation of...
Let's interrupt. You're talking about the response from the news broadcasters and digital association. Let's come to that in a moment's time. Let me first pursue a little more what the India Alliance has announced. Let me raise a second issue with you. Channel owners are not embarrassed by or ashamed of these anchors. Not only do they employ them and pay them well, but they believe the anchors are doing a good job. And indeed, more importantly, what these anchors are doing may be hateful in your eyes and mine, but it is clearly part of the channel's policy. So instead of boycotting individual anchors, shouldn't the alliance have boycotted the channel as a whole?
Yes, that follows a lot. It's a good point. I suppose they don't want to lose the opportunity for disseminating their views on these channels. But the question is, will the channels then invite them using some other anchors? No self-respecting channel should allow the person approached, the politician or the interviewee, to choose the journalist to talk to them. So I agree with that. But would they do that? And therefore, the real question is, who's going to be hurt more in this?
But I mean,
yeah,
there's something else. Isn't there a certain pointlessness to what the India alliance has done? Let me give you the example, just for example's sake, of India today. Shiv Arur and Gaurav Sawant are boycotted because they're considered hate mongers. Rajdeep Sardesai and Rahul Kanwal are not. So as far as India today is concerned, they will still have India alliance politicians on 2 shows. That is probably sufficient for the channel. But Gaurav Sawant and Shiv Arur will also be free to carry on with their alleged hate mongering. So what has the boycott achieved? India today will still have India alliance people, and the other 2 anchors can carry on allegedly hate mongering. It won't affect the channel at all.
yes, that is true. But I think they want to, I suppose I fall back on this answer that that it is to send a message that there are some notorious anchors and journalists out there who shouldn't really be in journalism. They are beyond the pale in the view of this alliance or this grouping, if you like. I don't know if it's quite an alliance, although it calls itself an alliance. So that's the issue.
But wouldn't you agree that messages can be sent both ways? India Alliance believes it is sending an essential message about 14 people who they think are beyond the pale. Fox News, to take that example, we don't have Fox News style journalism in India, but Fox News frequently sends messages about politicians who they believe are beyond the pale. Were Fox News to be adopted in India, messages would be going backwards and forwards. And what would you achieve except that you're targeting people on the basis of their personality and the fact that you don't like them? It serves no ethical purpose and no journalistic purpose, but it certainly makes individuals on both sides pretty happy.
Yes, I think that's a good point of comparison. And I think if the idea is to get views, get TRP ratings and so on, this then may play into the hands of these channels. So I think, professionally speaking, it would have been a smarter thing for the alliance to leave it to individual leaders to decline or accept invitations from particular anchors. Then it wouldn't be a point of controversy at all. But that is to really reject the idea that they want to send a message that these anchors, these 14, are beyond the pale in their view. But it's not so clear that message is going to work. That's your point, and I think there's a good point there.
Let me at this point take up the issue that you touched on a moment ago, how this should be responded to from the point of view of channel owners. A, they have a duty to stand up for their anchors who've been boycotted. And secondly, channels also have a right to adopt whatever political position or stance they want. The India Alliance decision affects both issues. So how should channel owners respond? Now, you've been a newspaper owner. How should channel owners respond when their right to be a particular type of channel is being challenged and when their employees are being, in their eyes, unfairly targeted?
The first part of my answer to your question is sack the most notorious of these anchors. Get rid of them and clean up your channel, because no channel has the right to propagate hate and this kind of bullying. I think after you moved out of television to the present platform, I think there's been a serious deterioration. I'm serious here, not because I'm talking to you. Let's take you as an example. You are known to be a hard interviewer, asking hard questions, even that, hard talk and so on. But you were never rude or offensive or bullying. Although I want to touch upon 2 famous instances where I think in 2005, I believe that Jayalalitha, Chief Minister Jayalalitha, didn't walk out, but it ended very interestingly with her saying that, "Oh, it's not a pleasure talking. It wasn't a pleasure talking to you," or words to that effect. When you said, "It's a pleasure talking to that." and she was very unhappy and objected to your line of questioning. And the other, of course, is the then Chief Minister of Gujarat. I believe that was in 2007. Mr. Narendra Modi, he handled it much more subtly, but only for 2.5 minutes, and he walked out saying he wanted water and so on. I saw that again before this, and also I watched the Siddharth Vardarajan's interview with you on explaining what happened. So,
Mr. Ram, I'm flattered and touched that you're bringing that up, but a bit embarrassed as well. Let me bring you back to the subject we're discussing. We really ought to stick to that.
What I was going to say is we have some of the worst news television in the world. I really avoid these channels. I don't want to name names here because other than, you mentioned the 14, they have to be named, but I don't want to name individual names here because they're not here to present their case. But what I watch, based on my occasional watching, this is completely unacceptable. I tell my friends who come from abroad, we have some of the worst news television in the world. There must be others also elsewhere.
But let me put to you.
That is a fact, I think.
Let me put to you this issue about how channels should respond. As I said in my earlier question, they have a duty to stand up for their anchors. They are their employees. Those anchors, in the eyes of channel owners, are doing good work. And secondly, as you know, channels have a right to adopt whatever political positioning they wish. Now, let me give you an example. If President Biden were to boycott top Fox News anchors, would the channel readily accept that another anchor will go and do the interview, not the top ones that we prefer? Or would Fox News say to President Biden, we're going to shut you out of the channel completely? And the belief would be that Fox News would say, you, President Biden, lose more from the audience you're missing out on than we lose by having you or not having you. In other words, the channel must believe it's bigger than the individual or the party boycotting it.
Yes, I think any self-respecting channel will not allow the interviewee to choose the anchor or the person, the interviewer. But are they like that? Are these channels like that? Or are they part of the propaganda apparatus of the central government, the BJP government? Some of them certainly behave like that.
Answer that question for me, because that is at the nub of how channel owners respond. If they are self-respecting, they ought to turn around to the India Alliance and say, you will not decide who interviews you on our channel. If you don't want to be interviewed by our choice of journalists, you will not appear on our channel, full stop, bye-bye. But that requires, as you said, self-respect. It also requires confidence that your channel is better than the person seeking to boycott it. Does that self-respect exist amongst owners?
No, it doesn't. They bend. It used to be said about, you know the line, Humpert Wolf, you can't hope to bribe or twist, thank God, the British journalist, but considering what the man would do unbribed, there's no occasion to. You remember that very well, and I think some of them clearly behave like that. We also have a homegrown saying by Mr. Lal Krishan Advani, saying that you
were asked to bend but chose to crawl.
Yeah, which was, I think, it was then the case, and today that's the case of many.
But then you're saying something very important. You're saying that this has also become a test for channel owners. How they respond will determine how dignified and how honest and upfront they are. But if they also buckle under, then they will be showing they have no self-respect. So what was meant to be a challenge is actually becoming a test that could show them up badly.
Yes, I entirely agree with you. On another matter, Karan, if I may bring it in at this stage, because I think it's relevant, I learned from my friends I referred to earlier today when we met in my office, that the BJP in Tamil Nadu boycotts all Tamil channels without exception. BJP as BJP, although their supporters, they appear. And instead, they're going to YouTube channels. Also, some other political parties do that, and they support those YouTube platforms in different ways. But I was surprised. I didn't know this, that there was a general ban on the political leaders going to any channels. And these include Tanti TV, Puthiya Talaimurai, which are perfectly independent and professional channels, not channels run by other political parties or tilting in any particular way. And so there's also that. The call for boycott comes from that. So we had to understand the factors that may have influenced the alliance.
This is a very important point you're making, Mr. Ram, because when the president of the BJP, Mr. Nadda, or the information and broadcasting minister, Mr. Thakur, tell the Indian Express that, in fact, the India alliance decision is a denial of freedom of expression and freedom of speech, that, in fact, this is not democracy, they are being hypocritical, because they themselves are presently boycotting Tamil channels in Tamil Nadu, and that's no different to what the India Alliance has proposed. I know for a fact that in the last years of Pranoy Roy's ownership of NDTV, the BJP wouldn't appear there.
Yes.
And if I can throw in my own personal example, from 2017, I've been boycotted by the BJP, something that was confirmed to me by Arun Jaitley, Amit Shah, Prakash Javadekar, Ram Madhav, and Sambit Patra. So when the BJP now tries to adopt a higher moral posture, they are being hypocritical in their criticism of the India Alliance.
Yes, I think this is a very important point. I listened to that interview where you go to, you clear, chapter and verse of what happened on that, the people you went to and the answer you finally got in practice. Mr. Amit Shah promised to come back with you in 24 hours and didn't till date. And so on. That I think does expose them. And any political party that follows that it is a clear decision. There's no doubt about it.
So we've reached a very interesting, if paradoxical, or maybe the word ironic is better, position.
Yeah.
The India Alliance has not covered itself with roses. They don't emerge out of this smelling innocent and good. But equally, the challenge that's posed to channel owners is going to create a crisis, because they will lack the self-respect to do the right thing. Both sides, in a sense, will lose. That will be the outcome.
Yes, both sides have something to lose. And the question is, which message will prevail?
Let's then at this point come to that press release, which you referred to earlier, which I said I would bring up later, issued by the News Broadcasters and Digital Association. They say that boycotting individual journalists amounts to, and I'm quoting, stifling freedom of speech and expression of the media. Now, do you agree, or do you think this is a bit exaggerated?
This is completely over the top, and it looks like they're going out of their way to have their knife in the India Alliance, because they say it's a dangerous precedent. I have it here with the text. They refer to these people, these 14, I guess, as some of India's top TV news personalities, seemingly in a laudatory way, and the really over-the-top statement is the boycott of certain journalists stroke anchors takes the nation back to the emergency era when the press was gagged and independent. I mean, this is ridiculous, this statement, because then I lived through the emergency. There was total censorship.
There's something else that's very interesting. We were talking a moment ago about how this is a challenge for channel owners. How, because they lack the self-respect, they will not stand up either for their channel or their anchors and look as if they buckle down. This press release is the first indication that is precisely what's happening. Because here, the news broadcasters are echoing almost word for word what JP Nadda and Anurag Thakur said to the Indian Express. They've repeated it almost verbatim. So It seems that rather than take an independent position which would enhance the News Broadcasters Association, they've sided completely with the government.
Yes, I fully agree with it. I am shocked to read this statement by a supposedly professional body, an association, and deeply anguished and concerned by the decision. They don't say anything about the conduct of these. They have to answer the charge that these people indulge in not just bias but communalism.
But that is surely a charge.
Hate speech. In fact.
But surely, Mr. Ram, that is a charge they would not only deny but refuse to accept, because these people continue as anchors, and these people are not just employed but well paid. And clearly, these anchors are fulfilling channel policy. Some channels deliberately have two sets of anchors, as India Today. The Rahul Kanwals and the Rajdeep Sardesais, who are secular, balanced, and not sectarian. And then allegedly, I'm using the word allegedly deliberately, the Shiva Rurs and the Govardhan Savants, who can appeal to the Hindutva brigade. That's channel policy. We have, therefore, a spectrum that attracts people from whatever.
Yes, they think that it's smart commercial, makes sense from a commercial standpoint. I don't know if it really works. I have no idea. But certainly those are the calculations it appears, having this. Not to foster pluralism, not to encourage diversity, but to take care of commercial viability at a time when even television is facing huge challenges, revenue challenges and so on, news television in particular. So I think they are doing it.
Would it not have been wiser to adopt a strategy that would be more likely to, not guaranteed, but more likely to silence hate mongering on TV completely? If the India Alliance had said, channels like A, B, C, D, we will boycott completely, rather than choose the anchors you'll boycott, then those channels would have had a very difficult time doing political programming, even worse when elections come. And therefore, you might have forced them to rethink. But if you pick the anchors, then those anchors will continue to be communal, and you will be still going to other anchors, and so the channel will still have you. In other words, the channel hasn't really lost, but India Alliance hasn't gained very much.
Yes, I get your point, and I'm almost persuaded that distinction is very important between sanctions against the channel and against individuals, because your point being that the channels want that. It's the channels that created these anchors in effect. They pick them, and they also have both sides and so on. A spectrum, you said. So it depends on that strategy. So I agree with you on this.
Finally, Mr. Ram, I want to raise briefly before I end a deeper issue, but it is still connected to the India Alliance boycott and controversy. You are a proprietor of one of the most important papers in the country. Your family has been involved in running a paper and thinking about the interest of the institution for decades. And that's
since 1905, to be precise.
There you are. In fact, over a century. That's why I put this question to you. Why do proprietors on television channels permit and even encourage hate-filled discussions? Is it because they themselves are full of hate, particularly for Muslims? Or is it secondly because they believe these discussions bring TRPs, advertising, and therefore profit? So this is a commercial way of making money? Or is it possibly because these proprietors face enforcement directorate and CBI cases, and this is a way of protecting themselves?
Yes, I think the last is the most potent factor, I think, in this. I don't think a lot of them believe in hate against Muslims and so on, at least people I know. But most of them have fallen in line because they are afraid. They also want to buy favors. They want favors from the government, advertising and other favors for the other businesses. So they want to be on the right side, as they see it, the safe side. But the real fear is, there was a case of a major Hindi language newspaper, which did exceptional work in covering deaths, COVID-19 deaths, and then there was a raid. At least that's what I read in the press, and then they fell in line, if it's true. So it's not that they want to suppress the truth. Many of them are professionals. They have a tradition of good journalism. But something has happened, just as during the emergency. They caved in completely, almost without exception. I don't buy this story that so-and-so was heroic and so on. I was there. You must have been there watching this. And very few put up any kind of resistance other than the small underground publications. A similar thing is happening now, but the difference is I still have hope. There are spaces, and the new technology, the new platforms are giving us opportunities for voices to be raised in defense of democratic rights and freedoms and things like this, where it's not easy to come to an answer. Because on the one hand, I'm against hate and communalism, but how do you figure out ways of dealing with it? And that's what we are talking about here.
But there's a very sad conclusion that's suggested by what you said just now. The one quality one looks for in channel owners, in newspaper proprietors, is spine, the capacity to withstand political pressure. Political pressure more than commercial pressure, because that is the pressure that really hurts. And that is the one quality that seems to be missing. For whatever reason, whether they are personally vulnerable or whether they are liable to seek commercial solutions that bring easy money, but the spine that's required to stand up is not there. These guys have become intimidated. They've become spineless, and that's the sad thing.
They had it during the freedom struggle, I guess. And they had it, I remember 40 years ago, we believed that India was in an enviable position when it came to press freedom. There was mainly the press at that point. There was no, in the late 70s, after the emergency regime was overthrown in a peaceful way. And there was a very good period for the press. But other than that, there have been plenty of instances when this spine has been lacking. And I think this is one of the worst periods, when there's no emergency, when there is diversity, there is pluralism out there, and yet so many of them fall in line. But I don't want to end on a dismal note, because there are spaces and there are voices that, that give us hope. And discussions like this have to take place. There are newspapers, I'm not talking just about the Hindu and so on, like the Telegraph or the Deccan Herald or the Indian Express and so on. There are very good journalists out there. And you can't get rid of a tradition, a proud tradition of independent journalism, journalism of integrity, some quality, addressing issues that matter, professionalizing the whole pursuit, and so on. I think it's still there. And some people fall into sort of a very dejected state about media freedom. That is all gone. I don't buy that.
Let's then hold on to that note of hope, even if it's slender. And I'll end by reminding the audience about that wonderful line from Gone with the Wind. As Scarlett O'Hara said to her departing husband, Rhett Butler, tomorrow is another day. And she ended by saying, I'll get him back. Maybe we'll get back the good journalism, the good days of stalwart newspaper and channel proprietors who can stand up to governments as Catherine Graham did and basically tell them, sorry, no, the truth will prevail. Because remember, sir, our country's motto is Satyamev Jayate. Jayate means it will continue and live. Let's hope that's true. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch The Interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.